Morning. This is a presentation on the Prince William Sound Tanker Oil Discharge Prevention and Contingency Plan. I'm just going to take this opportunity to, besides just talking about the Prince William Sound Tanker CPlan, I'm taking the opportunity to kind of do a little bit of an overview, CPlan 101. I geared this up for people that either need a refresher on it or some folks aren't as familiar with the CPlan process. So starting with the Prince William Sound Tanker CPlan, we call it the Tanker CPlan, just so that the terminology is more familiar with folks. We call it the CPlan, the Tanker CPlan, the plan. We also call it the ODP-CP. And what I'm going to cover this morning is what is a contingency plan? Why are they important? Talk about a little bit about our role in reviewing plans, contents of the plan, and then also talking about the Prince William Sound Tanker CPlan in general, and then the renewal as far as the process and the content. So why are these plans important? They're important because it's a binding contract between regulators and plan holders or operators, and that's the tanker operators in this case. It provides, you think of it as an insurance policy for stakeholders to protect resources and livelihoods, as far as fishing, tourism, aquaculture, subsistence activities, the communities themselves, environmental groups. It lists the steps to be taken before, during, and after an emergency, and provides lots of detailed information on prevention and response activities. And the goal is to avoid complacency and prevent future spills. The functions of the CPlan are, it's an emergency plan. It is also a detailed long-term plan for response. It's proof that equipment and resources meet standards. It's an assessment of past incidents and how they could have been prevented. It describes the prevention measures, and it's proof that equipment and vessel technology is modern. And the goal is, the CPlan is actually the permit for the facility or the tanker to operate. So this slide is a reminder as we get closer to the 33rd anniversary of the Exxon Valdez oil spill. This information is from the EVOS Trustee Council. And you can just see it's a reminder that the spill traveled 470 miles. It impacted 1,300 miles of shoreline. It heavily oiled up to 200 miles of shoreline. And we never want to see this happen again. So our role in reviewing contingency plans is, it's part of our mandate under the Oil Pollution Act of 1990. These plans are updated every 5 years. And in the meantime, in that 5-year period, there's minor amendments and major amendments that are done to these plans. We get into public reviews with the major amendments. Minor amendments are more administrative in nature. And we submit comments to the approving agencies. Just want to mention who reviews the plans. On staff, we have Jeremy Robita, Roy Robertson, Joe Lally, Austin Love, Alan Sorum, Danielle Berna, even though we haven't pulled Danielle in too much yet, but we will. And then Donna Shantz. And I think, it's worth mentioning that Donna's institutional knowledge is amazing in contingency planning. And she's got a memory like a steel trap. So it's really helpful. Honestly, Donna really does. And I think, with the combined experience of this group of people, it's, as Steve Lewis said yesterday, mentioning how many years of experience. I mean, this is over 100 years of combined experience in CPlan reviews. So I think we have a really strong team. We also work with the CPlan project team. And then we talk about it with the Oil Spill Prevention and Response Committee, which focuses on the tanker plan. And then the Terminal Operations and Environmental Monitoring Committee, which focuses on the terminal plan. Our review goals are to ensure that all state and federal regulations are met, and that board, committee, and stakeholder concerns are addressed. Again, fishing, tourism, the communities themselves, subsistence activity, native interests. We also verify that there's no backsliding to any commitments in the contingency plan. That's where our history is really vital. And we ensure that the best technology is used to prevent oil spills. We also verify that there is sufficient equipment and personnel to prevent resource damage and to clean up the oil. We ensure that the plan is based on realistic assumptions, that all of those details are captured in the contingency plan, and that lessons learned from drills, trainings, and actual spills are incorporated in the plan to improve it. And I think it's worth mentioning right now that many of our projects that we develop each year stem from commitments in the contingency plan. For example, Jeremy Robita, you heard yesterday that Jeremy's going to be working on an out-of-region equipment survey project. That's from the contingency plan. Jeremy recently did a dock walk in Valdez to look at the fishing vessels available for response. That's part of the contingency plan. Jeremy's also involved with exercises along with Roy Robertson. Roy does all of the drills and exercises. That information gets incorporated into the plans. Alan Sorum's focus has been on towing and best available technology for tugs. Then you've got Austin Love and the work that he's done on tank inspections, secondary containment liners, piping inspections, corrosion control. And then you've got Danielle Verna that has expertise in dispersants and soon to be in situ burning. So this is the Prince William Sound Tanker Oil Discharge Prevention and Contingency Plan. And these are the 3 parts to the plan. There's the core plan, which describes the oil spill prevention and response activities and procedures that are common to the Prince William Sound tank vessel operators and their response action contractor, who is Alaska SERVS. And there are 5 parts to the core plan, which I'll go through in a couple other slides. There's also the SERVS technical manual, and that provides information on operation response details and response tactics that could be used in the event of an oil spill. And then there are the individual shippers' vessel response plans. They provide response information that are specific to each shipper. So the way that the tanker CPlan is viewed and evaluated is the individual vessel response plans are used in conjunction with the core plan and the SERVS technical manual. This is a list of the response planning group shippers. I guess I didn't mention the response planning group. That's the group that the tanker CPlan is under. It's considered the response planning group. These are the members, and these are the shippers that have their individual vessel response plans, including Alaska Tanker Company, Endeavor, which is a wholly owned subsidiary of Marathon, Crowley Alaska Tankers, Hillcorp North Slope, and Polar Tankers with ConocoPhillips. The objectives of the CPlan in this case is safe transport of crude oil from the terminal to refineries, prevent oil spills, minimize damage or impacts to the environment, ensure safety of the public and employees, and provide response pre-planning. So the 5 parts of the contingency plan. This is part 1, the response action plan. This contains the emergency action checklist, and it includes reporting and notification, information on response scenarios and strategies, how the response will be achieved, scenarios that describe equipment, personnel, and strategies that could be used in a hypothetical oil spill at a certain time and location, and includes non-mechanical response options such as the use of dispersants and in situ burning. The next part of the plan is part 2, the prevention plan. So the prevention plan provides a summary of the programs and practices targeted at preventing oil spill. This includes prevention training, for example, on escorting vessels, maneuvering into and away from mooring buoys, docks, and vessels, performing inbound and outbound escorts, tethering and untethering operations. It also includes details on the tanker escort system and the emergency tow program. The next is vessel traffic system, and that includes information on the vessel traffic lanes, inbound and outbound. It also includes ice navigation procedures, maximum transit speeds, weather restrictions, and hazards. And another part of the prevention plan is discharge detection methods, both visual surveillance and through automatic gauging systems and alarms, and then alcohol and drug testing. Part 3 contains supplemental information in the plan. It's the vessel description, incident command system, weather information such as wind, sea state, tide, and currents. It includes information on response training, as well as protection of environmentally sensitive areas. Part 4 of the plan is best available technology, and that's the criteria for equipment to be the best available. For example, in communications equipment, source control, trajectory analyses, and detection of oil. And then part 5 of the plan is the response planning standard, and that's the volume of oil that each plan is required to show that the plan holder can contain, control, and pick up within 72 hours. And in this case, for the Prince William Sound Tanker CPlan, it is 546,147 barrels. So now I'll talk more about the renewal of the plan. And there's 2 parts to the renewal. There's the actual process, and then there's the content. The team that was involved in reviewing this plan include Jeremy, Roy, Joe, Alan, Donna, and then outside help from contractors, Nuka Research, which includes Sierra Fletcher, who we heard from yesterday, and she consults with Elise DeCola and Tim Robertson. And then we also had help from Breck Tosteven, who, as Donna indicated, had several, almost 3 decades of experience with DEC, and he helped with looking at some of the commitments contained in the vessel response plans. And then we also worked with the CPlan project team and the OSPR committee. Okay, here's a timeline of the review, and there's a mistake on the top. It's supposed to be, the plan was last renewed January 31st, 2017. And then for those that have been around for a while, probably remember all of the work done on the marine transition during the 17-18 timeframe. As you can see, there's a gap. There's a little bit, there's not as much activity between this 2016 and 2021. That's because the marine transition was happening during that time. So the RPG, or the shippers, submitted their plan at the beginning of May or middle of May to DEC for a sufficiency review. And then there was followed by a public comment. We provided comments in July, and our comments consisted of comments and suggested requests for additional information that we thought should be part of the plan. And then DEC issued their formal RFAIs at the beginning of October. The shippers responded to those RFAIs in the beginning of November, and that was followed by another 14-day public review on those responses. We submitted comments at the beginning of December, and then mid-December, DEC found the application is complete, which meant that they were not going to ask or request for any additional information from the shippers. And so where we are now is the plan expires on Monday, January 31st. And at that time, DEC has to either approve the plan, not approve the plan, or approve with conditions. Now we'll move over to the CPlan content of the review. The proposed changes by the shippers, there were no significant changes. It was a lot of administrative updates, updates to discharge history, bibliography, integration of crucial skimmers. And then our comments, we categorized them into 4 different categories: new proposed language or context, key unresolved issues, training and exercises, and individual shipper vessel response plans. I think we had about 60 suggested requests for additional information in the first phase of the review, and DEC issued about 70 requests for additional information on the core plan and the tech manual. And I think they issued about 45 requests for additional information on the vessel response plans. A lot of those RFAIs were edits and changes and just making it readability, and some of them were substantial as well. So our first of 4 categories is new proposed language or context. We asked for additional information on oil properties that was used in the response planning calculations because we wanted to make sure the oil gravity numbers were consistent. We also offered to participate in another oil properties work group that had previously been active in about the 2007 timeframe. Just as a reminder, we do get samples every 5 years of ANS crude to do our own analysis on for oil properties. We also asked for more information on how nearshore task forces would be supported if the barge Mineral Creek is replaced with the nearshore recovery barge. Regarding best available technology, we recommended additional information on unmanned aerial systems and consideration of Pyxis cameras, which Jeremy's the Pyxis camera person. We also talked about the use of the language of the term vessel of opportunity for contracted vessels. We also recommended retaining language on the 2 tugs that are equipped with spraying equipment and trained crew for dispersants. And as far as the updated list of contractors, Beltec, as you heard from Roy yesterday, Beltec is no longer providing vessel decontamination, and MSRC replaced Linden for non-mechanical tactics and surveillance. So one piece that got our attention was TCC is replacing Beltec to provide decon on top of their commitment to provide oil spill response, marine support, and health and safety support. It doesn't appear that there's additional personnel were added to perform those services. So the other piece of that, the other concern is that Beltec has specialized equipment and training to provide the decon procedures. And we suggested a demonstration that TCC can provide these support services along with providing decon with the personnel that they have. So the next category is key unresolved issues. And, as people that were at the last board meeting, there's been the history of contingency planning, and it's become really apparent overall this time that it's important to keep track of some of these unresolved issues. If we drop these issues, they just drop away. So we bring them up during plan renewals to keep reminding folks that these are important to the RCAC. The first one is downstream planning. We suggest plan holders address capability in downstream areas. The last exercise that tested this was an exercise in Kodiak in 2013. So it's been a while. Sensitive area protection, we suggest that the plan holders demonstrate that there's enough resources and equipment to protect environmentally sensitive areas that are likely to be impacted by a spill. And then there's RMROL, realistic maximum response operating limits in the plan that indicate 30 to 40 knot winds in 10-foot seas for on-water recovery. This contradicts the Coast Guard, the American Society for Testing and Materials, and the World Catalog of Response Products, which rates serves equipment to 6-foot seas, not 10-foot seas. So we recommend plan holders demonstrate their open water recovery tactics in conditions at or approaching RMROL for wind and sea state. Regarding operation of a tank vessel under escort, comments addressed some of the history of the escort system, and we recommended looking at the anchor handling vessel Roche West as the Hinchinbrook Sentinel tug. We also recommended review of Gloston's 2020 report titled Hinchinbrook Entrance ETB BAT Assessment. So it's Emergency Towing Vessel Best Available Technology Assessment. Regarding training and exercises, we also had a list of exercises that we suggested be exercised over the next 5-year period. And what happens in that process is they'll do an exercise, they might need to tweak how it's done based on how the turnout of the exercise, and hopefully we'll be able to get back on schedule with that as COVID gets hopefully lessened around the world. And then there's the individual shipper vessel response plans. Those are focused on contractual details. We looked at that this time, including the description of dispersant response services, description of vessel routing information outside of Prince William Sound, the vessel response plans for chartered vessels, and information on contracted oil spill removal organizations. So where we are today, we're waiting for the plan approval. Like I said, if the plan will either be approved with conditions, or not approved. And I just want to say, well, I just went over what the CPlan is, why they are important, our role in goals and reviewing plans. Then I moved on to the tanker CPlan renewal, including contents of the plan, and I covered the process and content of the review. And the takeaway from this presentation is, CPlans drive a lot of our work through project development. We also are, we're lucky that we're the repository of a lot of contingency planning information over the past 30 plus years. And I got to say, we've had 2 CPlan project managers in over 30 years. So we have a really consistent long-term institutional knowledge that can be drawn upon. I just want to mention, while these issues may seem complicated to folks that aren't steeped in this on a daily basis, if you get involved, you'll understand them better and you can join the CPlan project team. And with that, I'll take any questions.
Jim Herbert.
Thanks, Linda. That's always great to get refreshed on all that. I just wanted to make sure everybody understood what a significant role RCAC plays in giving feedback to DEC, the shippers, and Alyeska. I would say there's no doubt that we are probably the group that goes through the paperwork on this with the most detail, puts it in historic perspective, and that probably guides the DEC in some of their actions. So it's not the most, as I always say, the sexiest part of our work, but it's terribly important. And just to quote or paraphrase what the mayor of Homer said to Robert Archibald a few weeks ago, he said, "Thank you very much for being the eyes and ears of all the stakeholders in the region." And the CPlan work is very important in that sense. Thanks, Linda.
And I just want to thank, other staff members, and then also really give kudos to our contractors too. Nuka Research they have worldwide recognition in this field. And, now that we've pulled Brett Kostovan in too, I think we have like the strongest team in the world.
Yeah, Linda, I just have to say that you have done a phenomenal job. The whole team has done a phenomenal job. When you look at the volumes and volumes of information that people have to go through just to pick up on certain little things that we might have a problem with, it is a big deal. And then when you turn around and hand these volumes and volumes to DEC to try and digest and make sure that they are doing the best interest for the state and the people, it's a massive task. And they have to maintain their excellence. That's where the insurance policy is. So, Steve Lewis.
Yes, thank you. Generally, just to add to what Jim said about the importance of this work, it's one of the most fundamental things the organization does, and I just urge the board to continue to recognize that and to support it functionally and financially to that extent. And I'd also recommend to people to get involved in this CPlan working group. As Jim said, it may not be the most exciting thing, but it gets you into the very nitty-gritty of what this is all about, and B, the group working on it are fun people. So in times when you might be looking for some just general companionship and conversation, this is a good group to participate with. So thank you very much for your effort there, Linda, and everybody else involved with it. Thank you.
Well, joining the CPlan project team, there's always an opportunity to learn more, because I think we all learn something all the time. It may not seem like it's the most exciting, but there's always something to learn. I'm still learning after 18 years, so.
Good job, Linda. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Concerted effort there.